From Martha and Alice.
Happy start of the school year. My name is Martha Connell, and I'm the immediate past president of the, not so immediate past president of the Fine Arts Booster Group. Tina Mullenkamp, our former president, we were sad to say, moved to Missouri, but she's doing well there. And I'm here tonight to present you with the year-end report from the Booster Group, which is at your spot, and also I could make it available electronically. I just want to highlight some of the things in there. Last year, the boosters raised over $15,000, supporting 41 projects that benefited over 4,500 kids, and received 12 instruments that were donated to us, repaired, and returned to the district. Among other things, the big thing being that it was our 10th year, and we're pleased to have survived this long through the support of our community. But one of the things I wanted to celebrate tonight was the introduction of a new leadership team. I have Alice Wu with me tonight, who is the new co-president, along with Janine Eng, and Beth Coons, whom you may remember, is our vice president. So I'm very pleased to introduce them and welcome them formally to the community and introduce them to you. And I'll let Alice say a few words.
I'm really glad to be working with Martha and the Fine Arts Booster Group because I think it does great work, and I'm also really happy to meet the new Fine Arts Director when he comes in a couple weeks. Yeah, so nice to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martha. Thank you, Alice. Adam.
Yeah. Good evening. Yes, it's welcome to the start of another school year. I'd actually, I don't know if Dr. Brenner announced this last time, I think he did, but I'll just say it again. We welcomed over 70 new teachers to the Ithaca City School District. They range from first year in teaching to 20-some plus years. Most of them went through the new teacher orientation, and obviously we found out that some have experience in foreign countries, and others are coming in with even administration experience back into the teaching role, which is kind of a unique cluster coming in. So we've got a varied group here that we're working with and already off and running. The new teacher mentor design team is meeting this week to reflect on the new teacher orientation and to start planning for next year already based on what we already know is needed and what's going to be wanted. The mentor-mentee meetings are going to be happening starting on September 27th. The agendas are going to be built on what the teachers say they need and what the mentors say that needs to happen at those so that everything's successful in the classroom. APPR continues to be the game of confusion and eye-rolling, but we here in Ithaca are figuring this out. Teachers are having constant meetings with the administration to answer questions or to keep making a list of questions so that we can get them answered, so we can get through this and the teaching and learning can continue to happen, and we're not making it a focus. But it's obviously still out there, and I was able to visit 3 of the 4 secondary schools, and I was in 2 of both middle schools, and I was meeting teachers and talking with them, and the sense of how it's really not the start of the school year. There's no, like, it doesn't feel like there's any like chaotic feel or with anything. It's just, it feels like May, you know, everyone's just like, it's just, everything's just happening, you know, the kids are going where they're supposed to be, the teachers are standing by the doors as classes are changing. That feel of just, it's already the middle of the year for some reason. It seems to already be there. So it was a great feeling that the schedules have worked out or something. Haven't talked to all the teachers, but it's just a nice feel. And I know Ithaca High School is working on their scheduling. I'm seeing guidance counselors scrambling with the schedules, trying to get them into the rooms so that they're learning. I know they've been working hard on that. So the few schools that I visited, it seems to be a great start to the school year. And I'm working with Bob and Dr. Brown on all of the other issues so that we can get them solved, so we can put our focus on the teaching and learning for all the students in the district. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Corinne.
Hi all. So I'm Corinne France, and I am here representing the PTA Council executive team. I last year was my second year as the first vice president of the PTA Council, and we will be having our officers voted in at our first meeting of this year, which will be on October 9th. And so I certainly want to welcome any Board of Ed members who want to attend the first PTA Council meeting. I know Dr. Brown is scheduled to be there with us, and right now I'm in the process of working with the team to formulate the agenda. I do want to say that other PTA units in all the schools are actively getting their first meetings going in September, so that in October I'll have a chance to report on all the various activities that the PTAs will be doing. And the final thing I'd like to say is there will be this year the annual traditional meet and greet of the Board of Ed, PTA Council, and administrators. It will be taking place on October 18th, so this is a save the date verbal announcement. It will be taking place here in the boardroom, and it will be from 5 to 6:30, and I believe it's a Thursday night. So please look for invites that I'll be sending out at some point, but it is a save the date at this point. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. Anyone else? Not seeing anyone, so we'll move on to student reps, and if I'm not mistaken, looks like we have LACS here tonight, correct?
Yes.
If you would like to introduce yourself, say anything, feel free, or not.
I should introduce themselves. Oh, I missed him. Did they do it before?
I'm Ned Laba. I'm a junior at LACS.
And I'm Bernard Anderson, and I am also a junior at ACS.
Very good.
You want to go?
All right. So LACS has gotten off to a very good start this year. Last Wednesday, students and parents came to the school to meet with parent-teacher conferences with their family group leaders to discuss schedules for the upcoming year. Thursday was actually the first day of school for new students, and this day there were lots of activities led by our WAM group, which stands for Welcoming Allies and Mentors, and it is a group of students who have volunteered to return and act as mentors and guides for the new students. And we have 44 new 6th graders and 25 new students in other grades. And each student has been assigned a WAM mentor who will periodically check in with them and provide support throughout this next year. And the mentors will also act as sources of information and just general resources for class help for the next year. And Friday was the first day of school for all students, and we had some back-to-school orientation. And for the first time, we tried a new system where we ran through an abbreviated schedule for students, and so far that has seemed to work very well for us, and we hope to continue that.
And so, also yesterday evening, we had our annual community picnic at Stewart Park, and a lot of families attended, like usual, and I think everyone had a good time. We have a couple of upcoming events in our community. Our first site-based council meeting is this upcoming Thursday, and 2 weeks from now, on Monday, September 24th, LACS is planning an open house to allow parents to go through their students' schedules and meet their students' teachers. A couple of concerns were raised during the first couple of days of school. We are currently working through some transportation issues in order to expand LACS's ability to transport students to off-site courses, such as at the high school or at TC3, and also to community service placements and career exploration placements. Several middle schoolers have also raised the concern about the price of school lunch, since that went up this year, and lunch now costs more at LACS than it does at other middle schools. So some middle schoolers haven't thought that that's fair, and our principal has told us that he's currently talking with the food service director to try and resolve this. And the only other concern there was about the parking lots, because those are in pretty bad condition, and our principal has also told us that he's trying to figure this out. But overall, I think our school year is off to a good start.
Thanks, guys. And you will get your own nameplate, so...
I have no spellings for them.
Very good. And Ithaca High will get the same, and we'll go ahead to Ithaca High.
My name is Noah Frostcott.
I'm Michaela Brew, and we're both juniors at Ithaca High School.
Last Wednesday was the first day for incoming freshmen that came in. Link Crew is it's run by Judy Kogan and Kelly Metzler. We had about almost 370 incoming freshmen. I'd like to thank Mr. Powers for making an appearance there, the new administration team. And we both think that that'll further accelerate at the high school.
As well, there were a couple of concerns raised by students. Although we did have a very smooth start to the school year, as well, I guess as ACS has shown, there are problems with the bus routes, having overcrowded buses and extremely long bus rides for places that are not that far away from the high school. And there's also a lack of clarity with some of the new rules in the high school, like not being able to go to your locker during lunch periods, which I think a lot of students have come into conflict with.
Anything else? Very good, thanks. And board responses, and Jay has one.
Yeah, correct me, and Jared's here. I think this is the smallest high school class that entered in the freshman year. 370 in.
They're about average. Maybe a little smaller.
I had someone told me.
Yeah.
So
350.
It's gotten down to 350.
The
sophomore class might be even a little smaller.
Sophomores are a little smaller.
It's actually headed back up now.
Yeah, and that was I thought it was headed.
They're about average.
It is average, but I think it is going to start to grow again if you look at the other numbers. Yeah, that was all. Observation.
This is not only an answer to both schools, but at the elementary schools that I've been to, busing is also a problem. Apparently, what they're trying to do, or what Jim Ellis is trying to do, is not have any child cross the road. This is a new program, so that the bus will come, pick up, and then have to come back on the other side.
Across particular roads.
Yeah.
It's not
I
all
think
state
it's
highways.
talking state highways.
Yeah.
Highways, not all roads.
And so they pass back and forth, and it's, at least out at Enfield, the kids are getting there now at 7:30 in order that the Enfield kids can get to the high school on time. And they were always late last year, apparently.
It's Caroline as well. Too.
Caroline.
Right, Caroline, Enfield,
Okay.
Lydia.
We have a conversation scheduled with Mr. Ellis tomorrow.
Okay.
To review the first week and to make the needed adjustments. Parents have been calling and asking about that. So yeah, we need to go through the first week to see where the problem spots were in order to adjust. But we're prepared to do that.
Okay.
Very good. Anything else? We'll move on to the consent agenda then. Entertain motion.
I'll move the consent.
Second by Pat. Any questions? Not a long consent agenda regarding finance, etc., but obviously personnel this time of year. Any questions? Are we good? All in favor? That's everyone. So I think, oh, there we are. Dr. Brown, you're down at the bottom. I almost missed it. But I wouldn't ever think of passing you by, Dr. Brown, since it was your birthday recently, even though you're getting older. But go ahead, Dr. Brown.
Right here.
I've got a lot more since I started this position. So,
That's true. Well, thank you, Mr. Anthony. I must say, Mr. Paiseki and some of the students have taken my thunder. I was planning to share with you all the great things about the first week of school and how it was so smooth. It was the smoothest opening I've ever experienced as an administrator or teacher or anything. It's been a great week. I guess I will just speak to very specific things. I've had a chance to be in almost every school for an extended period of time the first week. But even saying that in the first week for me as superintendent has been a difference. Today, I was at the high school, and Jerry Powers and I walked for about 45 minutes, the entire school. And we saw no students in the hallway. We saw 2 students in the hallway the entire trip. And before we spoke to them, they spoke to us with a pass. To think about how different the culture was from where it was when I walked to high school the first time a year and a half ago. It was, and we kept pinching ourselves, and we were, the new spaces. We walked into the quad where the seniors were, engaging with one another, checking some things on their iPad. We walked into classrooms, and the amount of differentiation and engagement was good for me to see. And I've said to you very frankly how those are 2 things I've struggled with when walking into classrooms, particularly at the high school. And today I can share with you, I saw both of those things at a high level. very specifically, I walked into Angela Irfani's classroom, one of the pilot classrooms for the iPad project. And this was a Regents level class. Every student was engaged in something that was relevant. You speak often about this example. You speak about the Shelter Albemarle example. And
I will never say that.
I saw that today in a high school class. I saw every young person engaging in a piece of text that was relevant to them on their level, and an activity that everyone was involved with was working on. They were producing iMovies, some were producing books, but every young person, and there were a lot of students in that room engaged, and the teacher was the facilitator of the conversation. I couldn't have said that a year ago. So I saw some great things at the high school, but I saw things at the high school today, the middle schools last week, and our elementary buildings. So yes, we're working through some transportation things, which we do, but the teaching and learning is happening, and the smoothness of how things are operating for the first week. And Mr. Landau and Mr. Trumbull have been there as well, and will speak to how smooth and how things are shifting in a good way for us. That's the first thing. Secondly, I wish to share with you, we, in our continuous improvement efforts to improve communication, you're going to see many things rolled out this year to increase two-way communication. Last year, the ICSD Insider and this 1.0 beta forum as a blog was very popular. We had over 40,000 visitors, unique visitors. So one may ask, why are you changing? But we're continuously improving and going after excellence. I wasn't quite happy, and some other folks weren't happy with the format. So we're moving towards a more of an interactive publication or e-magazine of an approach. And here's the two. Ms. Lynn, can you mind navigating to help me? I'm going to struggle to talk and push at the same time.
We're sharing computers.
You see, and some of the early feedback we received was that it was hard to enlarge things. I want to share with you and the community that you can enlarge things, very large, quite frankly. You can click and hold to move things around. I mean, so the traditional toolbar, and Apple has gotten rid of the toolbar on the side or the scroll bar. Other software programs are moving away from scroll bars as well. So you'll see that here. You can pinch, you can squeeze, you can move around based on your mouse, using a mouse, etc. So when you're looking for a scroll bar, it won't be there. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, actually. I wish I had sound because you can hear the little page flip and everything.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Anything to engage.
This company's working with us. They're going, because they've seen our previous work and they want to grow as well. They're going to be working with us to enhance this product as we grow and mature together. You'll see videos embedded. Now you see our first issue, we just did still photos that told stories. We'll have photos and videos embedded in future issues. There are links. I mean, so you can interact, you can use the thumbnails, you can share it with friends, you can crop things, you can print as a PDF if you still like the paper copy versions of it. But this is the new version of the Insider that we will publicize bi-weekly. And we'll include everything from updates from the Board of Education to interviews with particular staff members. So a great place to share information out. You'll be hearing much more about how we're looking to gather information from the community as well. And if you could click on this, and this was an idea from Mr. Landau. We were talking much about thinking our convocation. When we had all 1,100 plus employees together, we talked about how to become a community of 6,000, an organization of 6,000 thinkers. We're serious about this thinking thing. One of the things we're going to be doing very publicly is we're going to have educators, you, community members, students, staff, everyone submit their thoughts. And we'll be posting a new blog post daily. Just a reflective practice, and you'll see Mr. Gidenthal is writing about what he's thinking about today and some things he's implementing. I think Ms. Kavanaugh's been there already, Mr. Landau, but you'll see a wide range of folks from throughout the area in the community here on our blog, 180 Days of Thinking. Right now we're just going to post one a day, and I'm understanding that we're getting submissions now, so we may start to post 2 or 3, but right now we're hoping to put up one a day from folks who are thinking about. And if you go to the prompt, you'll see the prompt that will give some structure to it. But again, ways to potentially improve our communications efforts and publicize the work that's happening, the good work that's happening in the district. What's that?
No, I just had a mental picture of trying to, well, you know, for some of us, writing our thoughts wouldn't probably take very long. So, you know, just sometimes there's not a lot of, anyway.
You can
not a lot going on sometimes. You know, it's, so we encourage those who have interesting thoughts to write stuff. So, Jay, did you have a question?
I just wondered, can you give us a summary update of what's the plan this year? Maybe it's been given and I missed it, of iPads and whatnot being pushed out into classrooms. We had last year's, in particular in the elementary schools, and that was a test program. So,
right, status of 1-to-1 or where we are.
Exactly, yeah.
Last year we had 11 classrooms that were part of a pilot program. This year we're going to expand that pilot program to individual teacher teams that were associated last year. Last year we had some teachers on the grade level who were the only teachers on that grade level with the pilot program. Now we'll have the entire grade level that will have the iPad so they can do true PLC work with the tool. We're expanding it to department-wide implementation. So it's going to expand from where it was last year. So we're taking those lessons learned from the initial pilot and we're expanding it now that we have some early adopters and some folks who've already implemented it for about 6 or 7 months last year. And then we're doing some other things that are outside of the pilot. We refreshed all of our labs, and we're putting multiple iPads and iPad carts, iPod touch carts out at the individual buildings. So many more devices that are out there outside of the pilot, but as far as the pilot programming and that one-to-one for every student in the classroom or department or grade level, we're going to expand it, probably double it this year.
So you think you'll go from 11 to 12 class?
We'll probably be, if Mr. Moon, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll probably be close to 30 or 35 classrooms. We're at 11 now, and we're going to double that and then some. So
double this year, and then look to double again the following.
Yeah, and at some point we're also with the build out of our wireless infrastructure. Again, and I've said to the board and to the community, we will never be able to provide every student with a device. But we are going to be in a place where we can have a bring your own device of approach to this work. So.
And while you're on that subject, before we go to Sean, Jay just had some, you know, where are we with the wireless infrastructure rollout?
Mr. Moon, you wish to speak?
Sure.
Since you just touched on it.
Yeah. High school is complete.
Good.
4 buildings complete. DeWitt's complete. Boyd's complete. LACS is done. BJM is done. Bell Sherman is done.
Wow.
And Caroline and Enfield are next.
Very good.
And they're at Northeast right now. So we had in the original scheduling with the contractors hoped that we would be finished by Halloween with all buildings in the district. We're on budget. We have no change orders at this point, and I expect that we'll come in ahead of schedule. So right now it looks like we're doing quite well.
And originally we really didn't think we'd get this done by mid-year, but it's the deadlines, well, our target date's been moved up several times.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
So Tim, does it say here at the high school, does that mean that any class that is using something that needs a connection to Wi-Fi, if it's a large class of 30 kids, they will be able to all right now?
Absolutely.
Right now they're able to do it.
Absolutely.
We had 118 teachers in York on the opening day, all with their laptops all logged on the internet in one room.
Yeah. And it worked.
It didn't crash.
Right, that's right.
So, I mean, before we, to be honest, before we even chose the vendor, we took each one of the competing vendors to Danby and streamed a minimum of 30 machines simultaneously on a single access point. And quite honestly, the final vendor that we chose, we couldn't even slow that one AP down with 30 machines streaming video simultaneously.
So, yeah, that's true.
So we not only have coverage, we have one ubiquitous coverage, but we also have the density that we're going to need so that any, multiple classrooms side by side being all on should all be able to connect without any slowdown.
That's great.
We moved to Cat 6 wiring to support an increase in bandwidth down the road. I mean,
we've tripled our bandwidth over the last year too, for last call.
And what about kids bringing in their own, laptops or iPads? Where are we at on that?
We have a ICSD guest network, and some of your iPads may try to sync to it. It is our open network.
Okay.
If I was a student and had an iPhone and I would like to connect, There's an authentication process that you go through. It will send that phone a particular text with the code to use, and they type in that code and they have guest access. Right now, the guest access is internet only, simply to, in other words, you couldn't get to your own H drive, some of those sorts of things via that, but it is a bit more wide open. It is available on the ball field, so.
Great, thanks.
I can be, well, go ahead, Sean.
As we proceed this, first of all, whoever did, to the team that helped make this work happen, thank you very much, because we had a number of conversations about making sure this would be ready for the school year. I'm sure we're delighted the fact that it is, and hopefully our teachers and students are being able to appreciate the academic and curricular achievements of being able to actually download a video, right? As someone who's also an educator and uses at Dr. Brown's pushing, has been trying to find ways to include technology more and more in my teaching. I know that not all of our classrooms include smart boards, and I'm not a fan of smart boards given the lack of technological staying power they have and the amount of cost. I am, however, a fan of making sure that all of our classrooms have projectors. And so I'm wondering how we're going to try to find a way to make that happen. So if I'm an educator and I want my iPad, I can walk in and make sure I can stream it so all my students can see it on a screen someplace, at least focus their attention and go on. I know that's been a process in place, and I know that many of our middle schools, it's not to say that our elementary schools don't do the same thing, that additional carts that are movable between classroom to classroom would be ideal as well. And so I don't know if this is a conversation that we're going to have in finance at some point in time, Brad, but I wanted to ask Dr. Brown and Mr. Moon, now that we're here as well, that, if there's a plan in place to make sure that we're providing more and more projectors for our classrooms.
Yeah, we're finalizing a proposal now to bring to the next Finance and Facilities Committee meeting.
Does that include carts as well, with a couple of standing carts?
Not the carts, this is more about...
We're looking to hard mount those. So that you don't have to do, so that we would...
My apologies. Are we looking for laptop or iPad touch additional carts for schools? That's what I'm referring to, not carts for the projectors.
Separate,
separate question.
We mentioned that.
And that'll be coming as well at the same point in time?
Also.
We're going to do that, Dr. Brown. I appreciate the update.
Yeah. Our buying power through leases has allowed us to have this conversation now.
Is there anything else? Thanks, Dr. Brown. That was, appreciate the update. And on to school district business and elementary mathematics work session.
I'll invite my friends to the table to lead this conversation.
And Lily's going to come out.
Two math experts.
Are we going to be tested on this?
Yes.
I mean,
Will be a test.
I mean, isn't that the question that I always ask? Do I have to pay attention?
Higher order thinking.
Higher order thinking. Thank you. So very good.
180 people.
So good evening, everyone. Thanks for allowing us to have this time to talk about Singapore math tonight. We are going to frame our activities tonight around 60 minutes is on the agenda. And so the first 15 minutes, we want to give an overview about the process for adoption of Singapore math and talk about some of the strengths of Singapore math and show you a couple examples of what students will be doing. More importantly, we're going to break you up. We're going to have a primary level activity and intermediate grade activity. The primary activity will be down the hall. The intermediate activity will be in here, where we're going to roll up our sleeves and do some math. And we have some pencils, and we have all the materials ready for you all. And we won't test everyone at the end.
No.
Well, pencils are old school, but go ahead.
Yes, we are very old school with this. And then when we come back, we'll have, I'm trying to do the mental math in my head, I think this is going to add up close to 60, but we'll have about 15 or 20 minutes to just discuss and ask questions about what we saw in the overview and also what we did in the breakout rooms. If you have any questions as we go, though, please just shout them out. I want to introduce you to our two teachers on special assignment who are working with math this year. We have Lily Kavanaugh, and she was the first grade teacher at Enfield last year, and she is one of our TOSAs. And Jane Kessler, who taught 5th grade at South Hill last year, is another one of our TOSAs, and that's one of the acronyms I learned coming to Ithaca this year is TOSA. Teacher on special assignment, they will be working with math. They will be working in all the elementary buildings with access to all the teachers. They'll be helping to facilitate those release days, 6 at each grade that we'll be having starting in October as well. So they'll have very full plates this year working with math. And we also provided some bullet points about Singapore math that should be in your Dropbox for today. And we also last week emailed out the wiki that they will be using with all of the elementary teachers this year. Right now in the wiki we have the pacing guides that committees of teachers worked on over the summer, K through 5, and we also have a start to some of the resources that we're making available to teachers too.
We thought a good place to begin was just reviewing a little bit of the history of how we've gotten to the place that we're in now. Last fall, when I became elementary math curriculum chair, I had a personal goal of revitalizing our elementary committee, our elementary math committee. I had been involved in many math committees in the 1990s and even the early 2000s, but recently there hadn't been any elementary math committee. So in January, after I had received permission from Dr. Brown and Ms. Evelyn to proceed, we organized a committee with representatives in primary and intermediate grades from every elementary school and invited math TAs to participate as well, and formed this really great representative committee that met monthly between January and June. It quickly became apparent that there was a lot of things that people were unhappy about with our current math program. And people felt, teachers felt that students weren't being well served and things were pretty inconsistent across our district. And it felt like we needed another direction. So our committee was charged with investigating sort of where can we go from here? What other programs are out there that might be better than what we're doing now? So we went through a fairly elaborate process over 3 or 4 months where we reviewed 6 different programs, invited elementary teacher input, narrowed it down to 2 by the beginning of May, conducted site visits to 2 different school districts to see how our top 2 choices were being implemented in those schools, and finally came together in June, and by consensus we selected Singapore's primary mathematics as our recommendation to the board for our new math program.
So some of the qualities of Singapore math, or the major attributes of Singapore math, include that it's a mastery-based program. So instead of touching on topics here and there, kids really spend time with mathematical concepts until they master them. There are fewer topics within a grade level, and within those topics, students really go into more depth. So here's a 4th grade textbook, and this is half of the year's content. So this is a really big shift, right? And when you look through, you can see it's not like totally full of problems. There are cartoons, it's colorful, right? So we're talking about doing less and doing less better. It's closely aligned with the Common Core. It's actually slightly ahead, and we're spending this first year really making sure that we're aligned with the Common Core. So, the goal of the program, or the 2 big goals of the program, are thinking and getting kids to like math.
Do that again.
Like math. So mathematics is not the destination. Thinking is the destination. And mathematics is the vehicle through which we develop thinking.
Part of what's different about Singapore math is it has 3 main components of having a really strong number sense, some mental math emphasis, and finally problem solving by using a bar modeling. The number sense is really the basis of the program because it creates a layering of sequential topics for kids to build upon. So the number sense is important for all of their other mathematics because in this program the why comes before the how. You learn why the numbers work before you learn procedures. So it's very much into understanding what you're doing. it uses what's called a CPA approach, which is concrete, pictorial, abstract. So we start with things that are very concrete. It may be a concrete situation. You may be using manipulatives, and you move to pictorial things where you're looking, you're using pictures in books or pictures that you draw, and you're finally then moving to the abstract, is which when you're working with those numbers. So throughout the grades, we see this progression, and of course, as you get through 5th grade, we're going to have a lot more abstract work than we have in kindergarten, but it's consistent throughout the program that kids are moving from concrete to pictorial to abstract representations.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about this year's process and this year's adoption. What's really significant about this selection process and what we're doing this year is that teachers selected this program through consensus, as Jean mentioned earlier. And we use rubrics that were closely aligned with the Common Core, and even referred to one that was written by one of the writers of the Common Core. Another thing that's really remarkable about this year and this process is that you all are funding 2 teachers on special assignment to support this work, specifically support this work, which is different from what we've done in the past. We've created pacing guides, as Dr. Brown spoke about, or I'm sorry, Mr. Landau spoke about, are on our wiki. And those are intended to guide our instruction and make sure that we're aligned with the Common Core and our new math program. And we're providing ongoing professional development through these 6 release days for all elementary teachers. And lastly, we're helping to support parent nights, so parent communication and ensuring that parents understand what's going on with their kiddos.
Can you tell us how specific the pacing guides are?
So it depends on the grade, but it gives a general span of time. So in some cases, we've given 2 additional days to teach a particular concept, again, because it's a mastery program, and we know that kids are coming in maybe not with a full understanding like that. So it's saying, it's pretty general, but we are providing dates, saying folks should be around here by this day. Does that answer your question?
So the books are divided into units and into chapters. And what we did is we looked at Scarsdale's pacing guides when they first introduced the Common Core. Sorry, not the Common Core, Singapore Math. Then we looked at the Common Core, and then we used our knowledge about Ithaca and Ithaca's students and Ithaca teachers. And what we tried to do is looking at the pacing that's recommended, saying, oh, but this is a new concept to 4th grade. These kids are going to need instruction on this other prerequisite concept. So then we would add several days to get those prerequisite concepts. So what we did is we really carefully looked at it to try to come up with something that could really be a workable document for teachers and to guide their practice, but also something that was flexible enough that we can modify it if we find out it's not working perfectly.
We anticipate revising these each year until we're totally aligned with the program.
So as a parent with not a kid in elementary school anymore, but as a parent, what's the degree of difference between Singapore Math, everyday math? What's, obviously, and that's our concern, and I'm sure yours. Parents in a new math system. How do I check with my child? Check in how they're doing. Is my child going to really lose a year? Of course, that's why you're there, is to make sure that we don't lose an instruction in the year doing a transition from a past system to a new system. So, how big a switch is this for our kids and our families?
Well, the Everyday Math program was a spiral program. The Common Core state standards are mastery standards. So regardless of whether or not we had adopted a new program, we had a big transition to do in our district to go to mastery. So it is going to be a big transition year, because now we're saying we only want to teach information once, and we want to teach it well enough that kids are really going to get it, so that they're not having repetition again and again and again. So this is a shift, but this is a shift from the state as well as within this program. So it's the same shift that is coming at us, you know, so it's congruent, which is great.
And I was in a meeting, regional meeting last week, and I was basically told that the Common Core was based on Singapore math. Is that?
It's very well aligned, yes.
So I spent a week in Albany. Dr. Brown was nice enough to let me and Lynn Vanderwerk go as Common Core ambassadors. So we spent a week, I was with the mathematics folks, and the people who are writing the modules for the state presented concepts in such a way that are very congruent with Singapore mathematics. Coincidentally, 2 of the people who are writing these modules are also Singapore math trainers.
Right, and the point should be made, well, I'm going to make it anyway, is that
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, and it's why, you know, we had an everyday math program that was not consistent throughout the district, but that in itself is not a reason to wholly change how we teach math in elementary school. Obviously, we're getting pressure from the state. We keep hearing about Common Core. I came back from a meeting with Dr. Brown, and I said, last year, I think probably in Buffalo, and I didn't know enough about the Common Core. This is something coming down, and we were going to be forced to teach to it or embrace it or
Our students are going to be tested on it.
there, I think, there you go. So I won't interrupt you. Right, it's here, and so very good. I won't interrupt anymore.
I'll say one last thing. From the people that we've spoken with who have implemented this, they've talked about really doing parent nights and making sure there's communication, which is nice that we're here to help support teachers in schools with that. From what we understand as well, parents were not confused by the work that was coming home. They understood it, and they understood how to help their kids from their experiences that they've shared with us.
Did we get the extra material from Scarsdale? Did they promise the booklets with their...
We got their original, their pacing guides from them, which we then adapted. Okay. So we, instead of starting at ground zero, we started at, you know, looking at their work and then making it our work.
Good.
It's always better to start from something.
Question from...
I actually have 2 questions. What grades does this go from?
Kindergarten through 5th grade.
Okay, and also, I know as an elementary school student, I wasn't challenged enough with the everyday math program, and you said this was moving, like it spent a lot more time on each subject, and I was wondering like if the more advanced students this would like slow them down, or would this keep up to their ability?
This is really more about going deeper rather than wider. So we'll show you some of the things. A few strategies and explanations to show you, but there's a lot of differentiation built in to the program, and there's room for kids who get the concepts quickly to move at that pace, where at the same time for a child who perhaps needs some support, perhaps using manipulatives or a pictorial thing, that can be built in as well. So there is a lot of differentiation inside the program, and I am thinking that we'll be able to serve both ends very well. You know, this is new. You know, ask me in June if I'm happy or not, but I'm optimistic. That's a great question.
And Jay had a question then over.
Real quick one, it's all the materials have to be new and all. Have they shown up for every grade?
Yes.
They are here?
We have some back order. We had a kindergarten class that's a little bit bigger than last year's, so we have some of those materials on their way. We have some manipulatives that are on back order right now that are coming, but all the other grades have books. Good. And most of kindergarten does too, and the rest are coming shortly.
Beginning of next week.
Yeah.
Ready?
Is there any opportunity within this platform to have an accelerated student? like the one sitting next to me, who wants to go faster, actually help the students who are having some difficulty getting up to speed?
Oh, in terms of how a teacher would structure her classroom, yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on the structure of any certain room, but partner work or small group work, you know, as well as whole group work, independent work. So I see all of those different methods of instruction being part of this program.
And what's nice is we'll have the opportunity to work with folks throughout the year on how to structure their rooms and this this program in such a way that they really can do that well.
Judy Matthews.
I was at a meeting, PTA meeting, and then a faculty meeting at one of the schools, and it was my understanding that the elementary schools have agreed to set aside 45 minutes a day for either acceleration or AIS, or in both language arts and math. That's the understanding I got.
Doing a fact check, Judy.
Yeah.
I think she's talking about what's being called the Core Plus time.
Yes.
It's not directly connected to this, but it's a different schedule.
Yes, but it can be used for acceleration or remediation.
And it's on everyone's schedule. It doesn't look exactly the same in each building, and some principals are tweaking their schedules just a little bit the first week or two of the year. But we can share all the schedules out with you all once we get them, all the final versions of them.
But to answer the question, there's now extra time to delve further and do accelerated or...
A large part of the training, both from the representative from the textbook company and then what Jane and Lily have done and will do, is about differentiation, which was really great.
So let's go further into
Number bonds. A lot of what you're going to see in Singapore Math, it's not new per se, but it's unique how it's all put together. So, so starting out, number bonds. It's called number bonds. I don't know what they've called it before, but this is just breaking apart numbers. So for 5, you have 2 and 3, 3 and 2, 4 and 1, 1 and 4, 0 and 5, and you really get to know your numbers between 0 and 10. Then even up to 20, where kids are just breaking them apart and putting them back together. So when kids start to really know their numbers, then they become very powerful tools. So we can move on and use those numbers, that number bonding idea, for adding. So instead of thinking of adding 8 and then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, that's one way you count on. Another strategy is thinking, well, 8 plus what is 10? What do I need to get to 10? Oh, I need 2 more to get to 10. If I break apart my 5, I have 3 more. So therefore, 10 and 3 is 13. So this is a method of adding using number bonding. I taught myself this method when I was growing up. Nobody taught me, but I remember I had to learn 9 plus 6. And I couldn't remember that, but I could do 6 breaks up in 5 and 1. 9 and 1 is 10, plus 5 is 15. I could do 9 and 6 then. I had a method of retrieval. 7 and 8, the same thing. 7 is 5 and 2. Oh yeah, 15 again. This program makes these strategies explicit for all children. Some of you may have used these strategies just like I did growing up. You came up with ways to remember your facts. We're going to help children by sharing these strategies with them. And then you take them a little bit further. Okay, 48 plus 5, it's the same idea. 48 plus what is 52 plus 3 more is 53. 298, okay, 2 more is 300. And then we get our 303. Take it a step further. Fractions. 5/7 plus 4/7. Let's do traditional fractions. 5/7 plus 4/7. We add the numerator. That equals 9/7. Hopefully the student hasn't said 9/14ths, but we're 9/7, and then we need to simplify it because we can't have an improper fraction, so I say how many 7s go into 9? Okay, that's one group of 7, and then there's 2 left over, so I get 1 and 2 7s. And sometimes we have kids who get a little confused along the way. Well, let's think about this according to number bonding. 5 7s plus what is going to get me up to 1? Well, 5 7s plus 2 7s, oh, that gets me 1 whole. My 4 7s I can break up as 2 7s and 2 7s. So suddenly 5 7s plus 4 7s is 1 and 2 7s. So it's a little bit different way of looking at numbers and really using that number sense to teach kids strategies that really make sense. Now I'm going to give you a complete teaser. And this teaser is to introduce you to this thing called bar modeling. Now, bar modeling is a method of problem solving that Singapore Math uses. They claim, and once again, this is a claim, ask me in June if I agree or not, but the claim is 70 to 80% of all problems can be solved using bar modeling. So here's an example. I'm going to give you a problem. Here, Mr. Anderson.
You might want to change that to all.
And you might notice there's something missing in this problem. I hope you've noticed. The numbers, yeah, we can't very well solve it, and that's purposeful because often when kids get a word problem, the first thing they do, especially kids who aren't comfortable with word problems, is they grab those numbers out and they just try to combine them. And they may not combine them in ways that make very much sense. So instead we talk, well, what's this situation? So when I first read this problem and had to think about it, I said, okay, I sort of pictured it myself. I said, okay, it's my husband giving me some money, and then he's going out to the store because he does most of the shopping because I'm always doing something else. And he goes out and spends a bunch of his money, but not all, comes home with a little bit left. So how much did he start with? Let's get some numbers in here. Mr. Anderson gave 2/5 of his money to his wife. First thing we did is we have a bar that represents all of Mr. Anderson's money. But now we need to think, how can we make that bar represent what he gave to his wife?
This is where you get to answer.
Come on, guys.
Divide it up into 5 and take 2.
I can make 5 parts in my bar. My wife, his wife, is going to get 2/5 there. So now we want to know, okay, spent a part. Oh, spent half of the remainder. Well, how can I show half of my remainder? How can I show half? What could I do?
Divide it into tenths.
Yeah, okay, that would be one way. I could take that and it's a little tricky to take the 3 and make it to 10.
Shirley teaches English.
But I could also, if I just split it down in the middle, that would make the 2 parts. Often in bar modeling, they encourage just drawing another set of bars. So I have 2 equal bars underneath showing me what's spent and what's left. Oh, let's get the rest of the information. If he had $300 left, how much did he have at first? Well, if he has $300 left, how much did he spend?
Come on, Brad.
Come on. You got it. Okay, so if he has 300 left, of course he spent 300. So what's the value of one of those little rectangles on the top bar? They're each going to be 200 because 3 200s is going to be the same as 2 300s. So, how much did he give to his wife?
4.
So how much did he have at first? This is a problem that would stump a lot of 5th graders. But if you have this visual picture, it really makes sense. You can see what's happening. And I think our students are going to be very successful with this method of problem solving. It's a 7-step process. which we'll go over with you more in detail. But I think it has real exciting possibilities. It still follows Polya's 4-step model, which has been around forever, 1945. Understanding the problem, devising a plan, carrying it out, and reflecting. And that's what the steps in this bar modeling process do. So our next step is to actually break you up into a primary group with Lily and an intermediate group with me. And you get to choose. And you're going to do a little bar modeling. It will be a little bit more challenging in my group, but you know, elementary. And then we'll have a little bit of time for doing that, and then we'll be coming back in here.
We'll do that for 20 minutes, come back here for some reflection, and people who are here can also join in on the activities as well.
Exactly. So we're going to go ahead and do that now.
Where's the
Who's where? I mean, Bradley.
Could we just make it easy and divide us? You know, you guys go where you go, and we'll stay here.
That's easy. So we're the cool kids. That's what I'm. For a little while coming back, and Judy Maxwell was having regrets about a math teacher that she had long ago.
Yes.
But we're going to keep going. So, Matt, what else do you have?
We don't have anything else. We just thought we could take the remaining time and just throw it out to the board about these 3 questions. What pleased you, what surprised you, what challenged you, if you have questions for us.
Go ahead, Chris.
What pleased me was the fact that you guys took this on, especially getting consistency across the school and driving this forward. What surprised me is really the level of engagement. We were talking about 2nd graders, and I have no elementary age kids, but I remember myself as a 2nd grader to be this engaged with numbers. It will be a good thing. And what challenged me wasn't the process, but understanding that I learned from a different process, trying to get that out of my head and follow that process. But for a child learning it, that's their introduction, that's their method, I could definitely see where they get numbers and they understand it and they get relationships. So I like it.
First of all, what pleased me is having 2 of our great educators come up here and not only take us on and really walk us through a day in their life showing us their trade, but the excitement in which you did it, the way you were into this stuff, and at least I could hear it when you spoke, and you know, it was just great to see that
they're like this all the time.
Yeah. And so that was great. What surprised me is I actually think I got what you were trying to convey to us today. Because sometimes it's a little fuzzy, but I actually got what the point of this program was, and I'll be able to explain it or at least speak confidently about it, that this is something that was good. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks for coming to us in this way, getting us out of our seats in kind of the judging role and engaging us in what education is all about and what you do in the classrooms every day. I hope your colleagues, encourage your colleagues to do the same thing when they come up here, because I think we enjoy it a little bit too. So.
Anything else? Judy Max, Sean?
I'd like to comment and congratulate you on a year's worth of work and having been at some of those meetings and seeing the commitment of everybody and the commitment to the program that was chosen. And also on getting the materials here on time, which was the concern of many people. I think some people are hesitant, some teachers I've heard, because it's different. It also exposes their understanding of math concepts, and I think that needs to be worked on in the district, and I think this program will do that. So I'm very pleased.
Go ahead, Sean.
I have the privilege of spending some time with my two nieces and helping them every now and then with math, and I can tell you the past couple of years has been an exercise in frustration for them and for me, as someone who thinks they're pretty math competent. To try to assist a fourth grader negotiate math homework was embarrassing, to say the least. And then this, what I'm surprised by is how much common and mathematical sense this program seems to make. Just the two lessons that I got, it made it seem, partly because it's probably the way in which I was taught, but it just seems like it's just good math practice to get at thinking through math, as opposed to what we probably try and do vice versa. And the challenge for me is, I think I try to understand the classroom is moving away from, particularly at the second grade level, things like bar modeling and how that actually then turns into math computations for young folks. But I get the way in which, as a visual learner myself, how the visual helps me better comprehend math in relation to other numbers in terms of size, in terms of the amount. And so I'm intrigued to see, of course, change is, I think as we heard, is difficult for all folks. It's, we're asking a lot of our teachers to sort of change a math curriculum. We understand that. But I think from everything we've heard for the past couple of years, from the work the committee has done, that we all understand that this is done for the best interests of our young folks and to make them really good math students. So despite any challenges we may have going forward, and there's certain to be some, I think that this puts us on a significantly better path of making competent math students than we've had in the past. So thanks to the committee who put that work together. I'm interested to follow this one pretty closely to see how our math scores improve. I think our students will have a better math comprehension.
Great. Go ahead.
Someone at this table showed me how math was being taught to their child last year, in particular division, and the process was called chunking, and it seemed to just throw out everything that you would think we'd want children to know, right? So you're doing division, but you're not using division or multiplication, you're actually using subtraction and addition. And it takes a simple division problem, and I couldn't even, by the time I was finished doing the problem the way the child had learned it, I wanted to chunk myself. So thanks for just returning common sense to the damn thing, right? So you still have to know what 40 times 70 is and how to get there. So you're not throwing the principles of basic multiplication away. So
No, and
I can't
actually,
say this is a
that's where we're
forward.
going.
It seems to me like it just returns some damn common sense to where I was in 6th grade. So thank you for that.
And I have to ask Ms. Kevin as well, one of the things that was always frustrating to me as a math student was that I frequently got the right answer by doing a different process than my classmates, but would always get points marked off for not following standard protocol. And that wouldn't make sense to me. If I would get the right answer, why are you knocking points off, right? And so I was asking, is there flexibility in this program for non...
That came up in ours too. I asked the same question.
Were you there? Were you for, not necessarily for non-traditional math students, but for students who may follow different processes, is the program flexible enough, or is the curriculum flexible enough to be able to have some conversations? And I was hearing that that's actually built into the program to discuss how different students arrive at different answers and how different formulas or equations, etc.
Yeah, the point would be you have to be able to justify and show how you got your answer. If you used a different technique, but you can't, I just got it, that's just what it is, then I'm going to say, well, that's not quite where we need to be. You need to be able to show me how you got this answer. You know, what did you do to get to this answer? So yeah, there are lots of paths that you can take to get to the correct answer, but you need to be able to explain what path you chose.
Very good. Anything else?
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You're very welcome. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Matt.
I need the wiki site. I
Came in an email.
I got
Judy, do you know what a wiki site
can email.
Yes,
Say that again.
Well, it said it, but I was just wondering, what does the world come to when Judy Maxwell sits at a board meeting and says, I need the wiki site?
Okay, I have another complaint.
No, we're moving.
Why did I
What's on the
get
agenda?
the IC student who wanted to know about technology in the district?
Well,
I got the one who wanted to budget.
well, this is way off.
Where are we here?
I thought maybe somebody had said something.
I'm going to move item 5B as it's presented in the agenda.
Is this the form or the list? I'm sorry.
This is the list.
This is the
list. One of the
I'll second it.
second by Sean. This is, again, more work that's being done on DASA, list of DASA coordinators. We've approved a variety of names at other schools, and this is another list as we work through the district, abiding by the law of the land. Any questions? None. All in favor? That's everyone.
I'll move item 5C as it's presented in the agenda.
I will second it. I'd like to speak to it.
Second by Sean. Sean will speak.
I made a couple of quick edits to that form. I want to make sure whatever form we passed, there were nothing that was major in terms of content, but just in terms of spacing, in terms of how it looks. So it's the form that you find in your Dropbox currently. Just want to make sure that's the form that we're passing and giving out. Most importantly, for example, we had an asterisk describing the asterisk above the asterisk, which didn't make any sense to me, right? So I just did a little switching around, and that's the form that's there. So I want to make sure that's the one that we're voting and passing on.
So you saved the edits into Dropbox?
I saved it right in the Dropbox.
So we can see those?
You can, yep, just okay. Should be when it's there now.
So the board can see those? All right. And well, to the point, Kira can see those, and those edits will be made. If you are looking at them, are they okay? Are we good?
I'm good.
Any other questions? All in favor? That's everyone. Other business by board members, superintendent. To Judy's question, we all get emails this time of year, new semester starting at IC. So there's various professors that assign projects, and you will get emails saying, press interview or request for interview, and it's an assignment from Ithaca College. And
I got assigned.
Well, you don't have to respond. You can respond. Don't. As I told Pat, don't forward questions about the budget on to school district, staff. That's not. If you want to talk, discuss the budget and with students at IC, fine. But they're just trying to meet an assignment deadline, and so it's not really for a Gannett publication. It's not the press is not making a query.
I just thought it was interesting, the one I got.
Well, they're just going after the wiki lady, I think, is what they're doing. So other business. Anything else?
One other meeting to add. We've added an audit committee meeting on September 20th at 5 o'clock in conference room A.
The quarterly meeting. Yes. Sean,
we have a policy meeting on Thursday at 5:30, 5 o'clock? 5 p.m. And at some point in time in the very near future, I'm going to be inviting a couple of stakeholder groups to have a conversation about an ICSD faculty and staff, for lack of a better word, I'm not sure how we can even identify this, communication policy. In other words, we are interested in giving the advent of social media, of faculty and staff having direct conversation with students and having some sort of dialogue amongst various stakeholders, hopefully teachers union, PTA, etc., about how we should craft a policy and what sort of policy we want for this district that helps regulate the ways in which faculty and staff shall or shall not be in communication with students. We've also had a couple of requests recently about posting flyers in various schools, and so as a policy committee we're going to have some examination of that. What is the process by which outside organizations can send flyers home with public school students? It's coming up more and more in the past couple of weeks, and so I imagine it will happen more and more often. So I'm letting the public know, I'm letting folks in the audience know, beyond our typical policy review, those are the two of the policies that we've been asked to sort of step on relatively quickly. So, well, I've written a message, and I apologize for doing this unilaterally, saying currently that resides with the superintendent. Since the district has no policy on the books, that the superintendent is the person who decides that until we put a policy in place.
We have nothing?
There is currently nothing that, there's general principles and practices, but let's remember that our policy book is in some state of limbo while we're making the transition. Doesn't mean the old policies don't take effect, but I don't recall there being something, I haven't seen it, and I'll go back and check again.
Can't be signed up by the resident previously.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
There used to be.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'll move we adjourn.
Second by Chris, without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.